This is the same push. The T-Tech is in the same position. The Charger's in the same position. The tower is in the same position as the beginning of the match. The way that we have to play this is so much different. And those initial pushes from both teams, they're now haunting us at the end of the match. Yes, you can go for the Charger and find that pick. But should you? Today we're going to be talking about actions that we take and what does that mean for the bigger picture. In order to define some terms at the beginning, there are first, second, and third order consequences. So first order are immediate short-term decisions. Second order, a little bit bigger picture, thinking about the push as a whole. Third order, thinking about the match as a whole. So there's a lot of actions that go into a push. There are a lot of pushes that happen in a match. I was doing a coaching and VOD session with Eve, which is a competitive team. So thank you, Empress and the rest of the squad, for giving me time, going through the coaching session. Really smart players, really well articulated. Really appreciate them. So I want to go through that and provide some context and some examples, thinking about what the decisions that we make and how that relates to the bigger picture. All right, so let me switch over to the match itself. This is the very beginning of the match, and you can watch it through the Zap's perspective. So very early on, we see a couple people drop from this left side, get a pick. Then we start pushing on the right side, get another pick. We're chasing after the Charger. We go down, but then we end up trading with the Charger. And so we have a nice little advantage at the beginning of the match. But over time, our team gets cleaned up from this blue dapples. So what went wrong here? It seemed like the opening of this match went really well for us. Where did things go wrong with this push? As we're moving in, there is a moment where we do see one person here, one person here. The other thing is that there's two ink trails. So we see this ink trail over here. We see this ink trail over here. That probably wasn't done from the same person. So there's a couple of context clues if we're really, really clued in that there might be multiple people over in this area. But either way, great bombs, great collapse as a team, find this initial pick. Unfortunately, we don't know that the other person's here, but for our purposes, it's totally fine. As long as we take the tower and we move it to the first checkpoint, they become less and less relevant over on this side of the map. Our team finds this pick over here. So then after that, we start moving toward mid. And our ultimate goal is to start pushing this right side over here. So that's kind of the next steps of this push. And we do a wonderful job here. So we start pushing this left side. And again, this Forge Pro by themselves, we're able to collapse on them, find the pick. This is wonderful. Our game plan is coming together. Awesome. Now the next step of this is to keep pushing onto their plat. For me personally, I would recommend watching the backside of the fan. So after you take control of mid, this area here is so crucial because a lot of times people will be behind cover there and it's going to take you some time to flush that area out. You can use bombs, you can take a potential side angle over here underneath the ledge and potentially flush them out. You can use specials. There's a lot of different ways, but because this opening is going so well, they don't have anyone over there. We can see that there's no paint over in this area. So we can just kind of take this area for free. This entire opening is basically perfect up until this point. We're really concerned about the Charger from our perspective, which is totally valid. But the question that we want to ask here is, what kind of problem is the Charger in this scenario? The Charger in this spot is going to have to back up. They need to back up anyways, or potentially just jump out, because we have our T-Tech pushing in to the plat. So if the Charger tries to stay and entertain this fight, the T-Tech can always threaten. Let's say our T-Tech is going around here. Like, they can always threaten to push the Charger if they stay on the plat for too long. If we focus on moving the tower to the first checkpoint And if we're able to clear the checkpoint, the tower's still on the left side of the map. Second checkpoint, still on the left side of the map. It's not until the tower starts approaching, probably about right here, the tower starts approaching the third checkpoint. If they tri-strike at any point during this push over here, we just get off the tower and then wait out the tri-strikes, get back on the tower, and keep the push going. We need to recognize we've done what we've needed to do in order to confirm a really big push. And if we expand even higher to the third order consequences, there is still a considerate amount of time left, but getting a push all the way at least to about right here, I'd say about 20 or so. We can get a 20 push at the beginning of the match. It allows us so much more flexibility with defending for the rest of the match. We can defend this push 3-4 minutes, no problem at all. So when we find ourselves in these good positions, we really want to confirm those points. We got the picks, we have positioned ourselves where we need to be. Let's cash in and make sure that we get the objective done. But we trade off moving the objective, we trade off positioning on the enemy team spinner, and we end up trading off our zap to get the charger. And ultimately, is that worth the trade-off? Which when we break it down this way, this play definitely was not worth it. We'll keep going through. So again, we wipe out. When our team wipes out like this, our idea needs to be how close are we to specials? Try to paint for those and have them ready for a good spot for us to defend. They wiped us, they took the space. Our punishment is that they get the first checkpoint for free and they get the second checkpoint, or they get to the second checkpoint. We can defend by the time they get to the second checkpoint, but right now we just don't have enough time to set up. Where do we want to be positioned in order to use our Trizuka? And for me, there's two options. If you wanted to play behind this cover here and get this angle for the Zuka, that works totally fine because it watches this entire choke point here. So if anyone else is coming up, you can potentially hit them as well. Another option is that you can path your way up here and look to Zuka from this area over here. And Zuka here. And again, you're still watching this choke point area. So if anyone else is coming up during this time, you can assist with that. And while you're prepping for all of this, if you're up on top of here, you can help get this. Again, we've identified that behind the spinner is a very high value area to control for this map. What we end up doing here is we immediately try to take positions as fast as we can. And we're not allowing our specials to work for us. So we see the Booyah Bomb getting prepped. We get caught in the Booyah. And now we're close to our special, but now we're kind of in the middle of the fray. There's been so much chaos that this junior is able to make this very nice flank. So in this situation, the idea of taking this spot makes a lot of sense. I've mentioned it again and again. This is like super high real estate behind the spinner. So the enemy team is trading their Booyah Bomb here to be able to push and have control behind spinner, which is a great trade-off. I think it's a great play from the blue team here. And we just have to give that up and be ready to respond afterwards. We tried to fight before we had this set up, and that has bigger ramifications for the rest of the match. So we start thinking about the second order consequences of this. We've given up the second checkpoint, which we probably didn't need to do if we were able to set up appropriately beforehand. And now they're able to get even more points. So we see they push the tower to the third checkpoint. They even get the third checkpoint at this time. So in terms of the second order consequences, they get past 3 checkpoints. And they stage a really big push. Instead of getting a push into the 50s, they got it all the way to 12. And that was because of a decision that we made early on in the push. And even though there is plenty of time, the match is far from over at this point. 3.5 minutes is plenty of time to stage a comeback. But this push of 12 makes our life harder and forces us to take more risk in order to beat this push by the end of the match. So we'll skip toward the end and like our final push that we have. While I mentioned at the beginning that getting a pick on the charger doesn't really matter, so outside of like this part of the push, the rest of the push, the charger can't really do too much. While this is true, because we're toward the end of the match and this is an overtime push, we now have to worry about tri-strikes. Tri-strikes and booyah bombs potentially in the match on the spot. So we can't really avoid the charger. We have to take more aggressive plays. We actually play it really, really well here. So I want to go through the rest of this push. We can look from the E-Tech perspective. So I didn't like this push before on the charger because I just wanted us to take control early on in the match. But that push on the charger now is so crucial because of the tri-strikes that we talked about. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get enough space and the match kind of just is here. So what could we have done differently here? So we start getting onto their plat, we get some paint behind their spinner. This is all really good. We get a pick on the dapples. So now we have space to push the charger. And as we mentioned before, tri-strikes really scary during overtime. Booyah Bomb very scary during overtime. The Forge Pro still spawning in, so there's an opportunity for us to deal with the tri-strikes by getting a splat on the charger. So even though, again, this is the same push, the T-Tech is in the same position, the charger's in the same position, the tower is in the same position as the beginning of the match, the way that we have to play this is so much different because of the resources, mainly the time, and mainly the enemy team's score. And these are all second and third order consequences from the beginning of the match. And those initial pushes from both teams, they're now haunting us at the end of the match. But I want to play this out and just kind of talk through, give some ideas of how we could have potentially won this match. Because we were really close. We were in a really good position. So we push the charger because there's an opportunity to do so. They have tri-strikes ready, so if we don't get a pick on them and they're able to jump out or they're able to back up or just stay alive, they can get tri-strikes onto the tower by the time their team's ready to defend it, and they can end the match on the spot. So getting this pick is actually huge. So we get a pick on this charger. We don't have to worry about tri-strikes right now. We still might have to worry about them later, but we have a lot of time and a lot of space. We have constraints that we're now under at the end of this match. Because we're in overtime, because the enemy team got to 12, and because we didn't get any checkpoints during the beginning of the match, we got through the first checkpoint, but we still have to get through 2 more checkpoints that we potentially could have gotten, at least the first 2. So this checkpoint and then the second checkpoint here, we should have gotten both of these during that opening push. So let's play this through and kind of talk through how I would imagine us doing it. So the way that we do end up playing it is that we have specials. So we end up having cooler and we pop the cooler, and then we still have tri-strikes. We still have Zuka. So we have some answers. We do have to deal with this Booyah Bomb. That's kind of the next threat. So we have abilities between the tri-strikes and the Zuka to shred that Booyah Bomb. Or we could potentially get a pick on the Forge Pro before they paint for the Booyah Bomb and set it up. But there's a lot of potential counters here. So let's just say we use tri-strikes here. We tri-strike this area. We tri-strike... it doesn't really matter, but like, let's just say we tri-strike these areas to give us space. And then we put either the V-Shot or the Zap or both. We can just take the space over here. So now we have Zuka that threatens this whole area over here. Charger and other weapons may want to drop from this top area up here. And we threaten Zuka's here. Anyone that's coming out of spawn, we can also threaten Zukas. So like Trizooka now is a threat for the enemy if they just make it out of their spawn. So as they have to approach the tower, they have to worry about the Trizooka. So we get extra value out of just having the Trizooka passively without even having to use it, because it's always a threat for any angle that the enemy team's going to approach. So if we're holding this position and we have, like, let's just say like this space covered, so this is all like our paint, our control, they try to use the Booyah Bomb, there's an opportunity for us to be able to jump off the tower, wait out the special, and jump back on without having to worry about someone else on the enemy team touching the tower. So even if they do get a Booyah Bomb off in this scenario, if we take enough space forward, we can still play around a Booyah Bomb potentially. It's tough, but it is doable. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes experimenting, coming up with different ideas. But as you're going through and doing your analysis, these are the types of questions you want to be asking yourself. It's not just a matter of, oh, I should have played this fight better. It's not about necessarily winning a fight and losing a fight, but should I have taken this fight in the first place? What could I have been doing instead? Ultimately, do you know how to win the match? Do you know how many picks or what kind of special advantage you need to be able to advance the objective? I think a lot of people really struggle with truly understanding what the steps are to win a match of Splatoon. And they force themselves to have to take a bunch of fights and have to win in such a dominant fashion that they can be very unorganized or uncoordinated. But what your goal, especially when you're starting out in competitive, is you want to really understand, how do I win the match? How do I go about taking a small advantage and using that to accelerate our game plan? If you want to go for a pick, do we need to do it now? Or would it make more sense to wait later and do it later? If I have a special now, does it make sense to try to use it now? Or would it make more sense to leverage a better position or leverage a better timing or wait for the objective to be in a certain position before we try to take that fight or try to take that engagement or use that special to take space or take a fight? Yes, you can go for the charger and find that pick, but should you? Take care.